everyone, welcome into episode 17 of Jubilee Gardens. I know we said that it would be 2 weeks, and here we are 2 months later. So we're just gonna stop making promises on when these episodes are gonna come out. But as usual, I'm joined by CommandoSanta. How's it going?
Good. Yeah, so it definitely was 2 weeks because only the people that had to wait will think it's more than 2 weeks.
Yeah,
but
true.
If they're watching in succession, it was definitely 2 weeks from the last episode.
All the new subscribers, they're just going to seamlessly go right into this episode. And meanwhile, they've watched the last 3 episodes where we've been promising back to a normal schedule.
Do these guys make videos anymore?
Yeah. So we're not going to promise anything at any point in time. We are going to continue to work on the park, but both of us have just been really busy. So so I was able to, I think I told you before we started recording, I was able to half start a bunch of different things but didn't really finish it all. But at least made some substantial progress. So on the screen I am kind of over by that last area that I worked on with the A-frame restaurant. And so if you make your way around the bend from the little coaster here and head back towards where the sky ride ends, this is where I did most of the work. So I made a smaller building for the sky ride. The one that I had, I realized that, well, first of all, I hadn't completely finished it, but I realized that the scale of it was really large. I think that was one of the first things that I built once we made our way out of the main street, and it was before I really understood proper scaling in the game, and and it was way too big. So this is really small and compact and fits this area much better, I think.
So you changed up both sides. Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Like that. So I just copied the same one and put it over the other side, which we could certainly, if we ended up doing some sort of theme over there or wanted it to look older, we could definitely do a different building over there, but or at the very least change the colors. So but anyway, before I started working, I was kind of at a point where I didn't know what the hell to do. There's things we knew we wanted to include in the park, but I was just kind of stuck. And part of the problem is if those of you who have just started watching will know this, and those of you who maybe haven't gone back and seen one of the original episodes, we had all kinds of plans on doing a lot of different themes, themed areas, and then we slowly kind of transitioned into more of a generic park. And so we didn't necessarily have a master plan for this park, where we know exactly where everything, or not necessarily where everything was going to go, but exactly the kind of things we wanted to include. So a lot of it has been in between episodes, us just researching different stuff we like from various theme parks. And the good thing about that is that Jubilee Gardens has really become a mishmash of a lot of different theme parks that are out there. I know both of us have taken a lot of influence from Cedar Point. I've taken a lot from Carowinds, Jubilee Gardens in Denver, obviously. So there's been lots of bits and pieces we pulled, but it takes more time to work in the park because we have to research what we want to do before we really hop in and do it. So that was where I spent a lot of time. And if you look down to the right of the chairlift, this area I actually kind of copied from some stuff in Six Flags Over Georgia, which that's a great park for. That park is basically built on a hill, and so there's tons of elevation changes, and you get lots of interesting things there. So the Google Street View in there was really beneficial to kind of flesh this out. And so it's just got a little cover here. These vines are supposed to be trumpet vines, which are something that grow in the Rocky Mountain region really well. And then there's a little restaurant off to the side, which I haven't finished yet, but that's another building I took from Six Flags Over Georgia. So this will be it won't be a fast service restaurant. It'll be more of a full service restaurant once it's all completed. But then if you go back up to the left by the ski lift or chairlift entrance, You and I talked about doing a Kiddie land. So
Yeah.
this is Jubilee Junior. And
Jubilee Junior.
Yeah, so this is a bunch of flat rides that I got from the workshop, and I want to give proper credit to them, so I've made a list. So the swing is by Fisherman. The boats and the little car ride towards the back here are by JPAlmighT. Which all of these are like really, really well done.
These are so cool.
Yeah. So maybe these are the kinds of things that with the new custom content creator, people will be able to make functional. Although, well, or at least make better modeling of functionality might be a tough ask with the amount of programming that would go into that. But hopefully, at least the modeling can maybe be a little bit better on some of these things. But even that said, with the art shapes and what was available to them, these are really, really well done. And then the Kiddie Ferris wheel is by DDEF12 on the workshop.
DDEF12.
And then obviously these trampolines are by Mineral. I took those out of No Name Landia with his permission. And then the planes here are by Bullethead. So nice. I'll put links to all of those in the workshop, but they're just really, really well done. And I kind of didn't know what to do with this little area, and the way that I ended up doing the path work, it just made sense to kind of make this into a kiddie land because it was isolated, and I didn't finish the paths because I wasn't 100% sure that I wanted to keep these rides where they are, but I started doing some terrain work where if you go back around by the train station, you can see that eventually we'll be able to link a path from the train station up into the kiddie land here. So there will be two entry points and exit points from this area. So, and it made sense. Typically I think a lot of these kinds of things are more towards the front of parks, but with how close this is to the train station, most kids like to ride the train, not necessarily for a transportation standpoint, but just because they want to ride the train.
Because it's fun, yeah.
Exactly. And so its proximity to the train station, I felt okay putting it at the back of the park here.
Yeah. And like down the row here, you have the arcades and stuff too, and the big Ferris wheel.
Yep,
which are really high profile things for just families in general. Yep,
exactly. And the coaster to the left, I pulled that out of Knott's Berry Farm, and which is another reference park I didn't mention, but that, even though it's a little bit more intense than probably just a family coaster, it's still, when I was there, it was pretty much occupied by mostly families. It was one of the rides that it seemed like kids could qualify to ride based on height. The height requirement wasn't quite as much for this ride, it seemed like, and it was definitely a family coaster there. So
nice.
So that's some stuff that I started working on. And then if you go down this road here under that little awning, you'll see the bulk of what I spent the time on. So to the left is our Rapids ride. So this is this building. There's an Argo mine in Colorado. It's on your way up to the mountains, and it looks pretty similar to this building, and it's all red. It's really striking against the hillside.
Yeah.
And I really liked that. So I just wanted to try to mimic that as much as possible. And I know you and I had kind of discussed about maybe making a lower budget Rapids ride, but once I started getting into this, I just threw that out the window because for a couple reasons. One, I feel like we've really gone pretty generic in a lot of things, and this Jubilee would be a little bit of a higher budget park, and this is something that they could have spent more money on.
I mean, in all honesty, like these buildings could have been here as well,
Yeah, repurposed or something like that. Yeah, for sure.
Of course.
So if you go up the lift of the Rapids ride, so I really, really try to make this thing pretty low profile. So believe it or not, from the bottom so the max height of the lift hill is only 7 meters.
Oh wow.
So I really tried to make it low profile, but also give the illusion of forced perspective with the mountainside.
Yep.
So I sunk those trees in super low to make them look tiny at the top of the mountainside. And I think it does a pretty good job of capturing it because the mountain is actually not that large relative to the stuff around it. And so if you swing around to the back, you'll see I've sort of started mapping out some backstage stuff where we'll blend these buildings in with the rocks to make it look like the rocks are fake. I did that at the top of the mountain too. There's a little bit of a roof piece that I started working on to make it look more like a building. And the big reason for that is that there would be a lot of stuff that they would need to be able to reach and service on the interior. So I've got a couple tunnels that I've already fleshed out. If you go all the way to the bottom of the Rapids ride, inside the mountain, you'll see that I worked the train so that the train goes right by the rapid ride. So in here, I was planning on making this look a lot like a mine, and maybe there's no great animatronics, but maybe using some screens or stuff like sunk into the rock work to give that illusion. So I just thought it would be cool to have the proximity here with the rapid ride and the train going right by each other in this area. So there's still a ton of work to do on this on the interior, but started getting it to put together on the exterior at least. So the whole premise of this Rapids ride is that it would be like a mine tour.
Yeah, that's really neat.
Yeah.
Especially with on the backstage thing, they would definitely have to, make it a little bit more pretty just because the train does go through the backstage area a little bit. Right, exactly.
So where the train is going, it would be pretty highly themed actually is what I'm going to be going for, but we'll see once I actually start working on that.
And we are Disneyifying the train almost, just because there's never going to be a bad view on the train, aside from maybe behind Mr. Twister, but
Yep, exactly. So and then I use this steam shovel that's in the game as sort of a water feature. If you hit play, you'll see it doesn't cover the entire length of that track, but some unlucky person, when the raft spins under that, is going to get drenched. And then just still have a lot of work to do on the queue. The station, I'm really happy with how it's sort of coming along. One thing that I stole from the Rapids ride at No Name Landia is they had this little, I think John put it up, was the little wooden cover across the actual raft area. I really liked that in addition to the buildings. So I took that, and then the operator's booth I turned into the support work that they use for the lift inside of the mines. So that's what that's supposed to be, is the actual elevator shaft for the mine. Is the operator's booth.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Good job.
Thanks. So and then off to the left there's some storage, and this will work into the backstage with the Kiddie Land so that people can come down and access the raft storage. And then I figured, since most of this is indoors, there would be some storage tanks somewhere, but I'm not quite sure how to implement those yet. So if only we had our own wings and strings.
Yeah, of course.
Mike said that you could get one on Amazon, but I haven't seen them. So
yeah, I haven't seen it yet either. I've been looking.
Yeah. Maybe on Prime Day. I don't know.
Hopefully.
And then the other thing that I pulled in here, I think I'd shared some photos with you before. There's a restaurant in Austin called Bangers, and it's a sausage house and beer garden, but I renamed it Bandits. So this is my first attempt at like one of those custom signs where you sink a bunch of pieces in.
Okay. Yeah, that looks pretty good.
So we wanted to do something to thank John for all of his work in the park. And we thought about maybe naming a coaster after him, but then they named one of them Bandit inside No Name Landia, so I thought this was a good solution. So this, again, also is not completely finished, but if you go towards the back, you'll see there's all kinds of picnic tables, and I'm going to string lights between the building and the trees. On the back side of this smaller building would be like a bandstand for people to come and perform at. So yeah, I'm really happy with how this building turned out. It pretty much is a carbon copy of the restaurant in Austin. But
I think I remember you sending me pictures of this like a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And you really nailed it. This is phenomenal.
Thanks, man. Yeah, wow. I really enjoy this building, and I like how it basically incentivizes you to come into the restaurant either before or after going on the Rapids ride.
Oh yeah.
Especially with how this smaller building is right on the queue.
And the way you have the exit laid out, you just kind of get off the ride and you're there. It's like, oh, restaurant. And you probably smell it, and then you just kind of have to walk there.
Exactly. So something that I want to make that I didn't have time to is I actually saw it. Was it in Carowinds, I think? Yeah, it was. So it was in the street view at Carowinds on Google Earth. They had these like dryer things that you could step inside of.
Oh, yeah.
When you get off these rides. So I want to make a couple of those as well. But yeah, so still lots of details to flesh out in this area. But since there's such a high budget here, I figured this would be really sort of a master planned area. And because of that, I also wanted a coaster to be in. So if you flip the camera around, I started working on a coaster. I spent a lot of time trying to make a coaster work over here, and it broke me. So we've actually asked Kinderly to come in and take a crack at it. So the resident coaster whisperer is going to get the park file now and work on a coaster here. So I want something similar to Maverick at Cedar Point, which this is basically the beginning parts of.
Okay, yeah.
But I really wanted something that had cool path interaction right here, especially right, the view from the restaurant as well. Looking down into the coaster, both restaurants really, the Bandit restaurant and then the one up on the hill next to the bumper cars. So we'll see what he comes up with. But I tried all kinds of things here, man. I was doing a dual station flying coaster that I spent a ton of time on, and it just was too big for the area. And then I tried another flying coaster that it was too long. And yeah, so I am done with the coaster editor. I am fed up. So.
Sounds good. Yeah, I hear Kinderly's pretty okay with making coasters.
Yeah, not too shabby. So. So like I said, I pretty much half finished some stuff, but at least moved the park forward, and you can start to kind of, when you zoom out, you can start to kind of get a sense of the boundaries of the park. And we've still got a big chunk of land here that we've got some room to do some additional things with, but there's obviously a ton of detail we still need to do, but we're getting close to the point where at least all of the major rides and coasters are probably going to be in place within the next couple episodes. So
yep. Yeah, my only next thing, which I don't even know if it's going to fit anymore, because Maverick, this ride that's based off Maverick might even take its place almost. But I've been thinking about almost a hypercoaster.
Yeah,
it would be the only other thing we possibly would need. But
we could still do one. I mean, because Maverick is only. I mean, it's not technically a hyper, is it? I mean, it's only like. I mean, I don't know enough about coasters to know the exact requirements of what makes a hyper and a giga coaster and all that stuff. But
I mean, based off my generic knowledge of roller coasters and being around coaster snobs, it's not that close at all.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I figured so yeah, maybe I have no idea how to make one work, but I mean, theoretically, on the perimeter of the park, like, we should be able to make something work like that.
Yeah, where that kind of darker line is our
general
boundary.
Guideline. Yeah, exactly.
Possibly stay there, but
yeah,
because anything further than that, the park may become too big.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. And we want to try to finish this thing where it's not 300,000 pieces and we can actually finish it. So
yeah, and finish it by 2020 or something.
Yeah, exactly. So and then hopefully in a couple of episodes we'll have Mike on with us. He's actually done some work in the park. I don't want to show it off yet because he's not done with it, but he's done some gardening work so that Jubilee Gardens actually has gardens.
Yeah, it'll be our first ever garden.
Yeah, exactly. So at some point, we'll have him on when he's gotten a chance to do some more of that stuff. But he's got a couple of good ideas of how to rework that maze that we had over by the lift hill, or not the lift hill, the sky ride. So yeah, so we'll see how that pans out. But basically, the stuff that I did now, it's gonna be the next time I get the park, it's gonna be another episode like the one I had 2 episodes ago, where I just basically cleaned up all my messes that I started. So
yes, which is fine.
Yeah, but that's pretty much it.
This definitely leaves me and Kinderly with a lot to do. So
yeah,
with a direction.
Yeah, for sure.
So that'll be good. Good job. That was impressive.
Thanks, man.
You definitely were working on the park for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and again, we're not going to make any promises on when more episodes will come out, but just hang with us. Just know we're continuing to work on the park, and they'll come as we have time. So. Yep,
of course.
Sweet. Awesome.
Some content's better than no content.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So don't give up on us, but
please.
Yeah. Cool. Well, the next episode we'll see what Kinderly does with this coaster, and once he's done, I'm sure he'll pass it off to you, and then we'll go from there. So
next episode should have a good amount of good stuff in it.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I now have time to do things again. So
nice. Yeah, I should be better too. We buy a house this week actually,
nice.
And move this week. So once I get settled, my life will be a little bit more normal again.
It's like you're an adult now.
I know. Yeah. So this is 2. If you're keeping track, this is 2 moves within the last 6 months. So
yeah,
that's partly why. That's partly why this hasn't been as frequent as we would have liked. So
yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it. And we will see you when we see you.
See you in the next episode.
Yeah.
Definitely in maybe 2 weeks.
Right. All right. Thanks, guys.